Hi, Michael.
Hello there.
Hi, I kind of remember you from a while ago. Let me make sure I got things going here. Okay. And I'll get rid of that. I'm still setting up here. See, normally I'm
Okay.
in Los Angeles. Right now I'm in New York. Where are you?
Oh, in Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah.
Back on the West Coast, so it's like 5:30.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just do an intro here to just get the verbal on it. Let's see how I do this. Oh, there we go. Yeah, speaker. Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Going Viral. Whoops. Hello, everybody. This is not Going Wild. This is Going Viral. And today is the 3rd of June in 2026. And the relative things or important things that are going on today are the preliminary voting actions in about 6 different states deciding whether who's going to actually run in the actual election. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And started here, we've got a new or partially not that common participant named Michael McPherson.
Yeah.
And now, oh, somebody else coming in,
That's
Mr.
good because
Shaw.
you need some more guests than just me because I probably don't know enough.
Well, sure you do. Are you? Why don't you? Let me just do one check here. So everything's different these days now. There we go. Um, Hello, Mr. Shaw. I remember you. And
I remember you.
Michael, tell us while we're waiting to get some more people, what about Veterans for Peace? What are they doing these days?
Veterans
Yeah.
for
So,
Peace. Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, your name is Michael too. I am so sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's okay. That's all right.
Oh,
Yeah. My name's Michael.
You're Michael Shaw.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be
Well,
quiet, please.
ML. Today you're ML. Okay, Michael, tell us what's going on with Veterans for Peace.
Yeah. So, yes, I'm the National Executive Director of Veterans for Peace. And, we're trying to push back on the rise in authoritarianism. A main focus right now is calling for the end to the war in Iran. Um, that's a big focus for us. We recently participated in April 21st or 22nd in an action in Washington at the Cannon office building with About Face Veterans Against the War, 5051 veterans, military families speak out, a group called Fayetteville Resistance Coalition, and unaffiliated veterans. We occupied the rotunda of the Cannon office building, and we did a flag folding ceremony. We were in formation,
Excuse me
and
for interrupting. Which
yeah,
building?
the
Which building?
Cannon office building,
Oh, Cannon,
house,
Cannon,
yes,
the
in the
Cannon
house.
Company.
No, Cannon, the Cannon Congressional Office Building is the
Okay,
house because they have two office buildings in DC.
okay.
Yeah. So it was one of the congressional buildings, and we occupied the rotunda there. And in formation, did a flag folding ceremony, a U.S. Flag, and called for the end to the wars, bring our troops home from the wars, stop it, and the end to the endless wars. So yeah, that's a big focus for us right now. So what we're trying to do really is raise the visibility of veterans and veterans who are speaking out against the following of illegal orders and these illegal wars so that service members know that there are people out there that support them if they choose to follow their conscience. Um, and we want other veterans to know that, yeah, there are veterans out here who agree with you that want to defend democracy, want these wars to end, and come join us. So we're going to be doing activity in Philadelphia for the 4th and more about that will come out soon, because we need to be as visible as possible.
Okay, so in that demonstration, how many people, what date was it? And
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the 21st or the 22nd. There were 61 of us that were removed from the Cannon Rotunda. Um, and there were probably about 100 of us all together, including uh, a wife of a person on active duty who's in, I can't remember if they're in Jordan or Saudi Arabia, and the person's mother, who gave a short speech, because as part of the flag folding ceremony, we had some people speak, and fortunately, before they started taking us away and arresting us, they did let that mother and spouse finish what they had to say, and then they got out of the way, so they weren't arrested, because we didn't, you choose whether or not you want to be, and they got out of the way. Yeah, so we made international news. There was a lot of press about it, but you know how it is these days. The media is so fragmented. You might see it, you might not see it, but there's really good press about it.
well, you're familiar with where it was covered, right? Was it mostly what they call legacy media, or is it?
There was a little legacy media, not a lot. Mostly it was online media, going viral and things like that. If you were to NPR covered it later. National Public Radio actually did a piece on it. I'm trying to remember. I think Time Magazine Online might have done a piece on it. So there was some legacy, but most of it was new media.
Okay, good. ML, Michael Shaw. What are you familiar with peace activism and protests and so forth? You
Yeah.
look
Oh,
like
yeah.
a little bit of a
Yeah.
hippie because you got the thing in the back of the hair there.
Yeah. I know. I'm familiar with. I haven't joined any, but I'm aware of them. Like I've heard of Veterans for Peace. I don't know anything about them, but I've heard about them, and I don't know. Like any kind of thing I heard about it would have been like back would have been 2014, 2015, 2016, like when Bernie Sanders was going through really strongly with against Clinton, whatever. Anyway, and then I've kind of heard and seen some uh, just general, not necessarily veteran ones, but like the ones that I'm familiar with are more around like Wounded Warrior or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and the also the pros and cons in that world too. Like some don't donate or don't this one, that one, the two administrative costs, or the CEO makes $1 million or whatever. But but
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
go. No, I'm not aware of any like other than Veterans for Peace, but that would be cool to know about. That was just fascinating. I was just writing down what you guys are for and what you're about and all that. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Well, how effective do you think that level of protest works in a democracy like we
You're
have here?
asking
Let's
me.
say we still have a democracy here. How much?
You're
How
asking me.
effective? Yeah, yeah. I'm asking you. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's luck. I think it's mood. I think Michael here just kind of touched on reality a little bit, like viral. If it goes viral, if it's in the attention, you can get something going. Also, if there were already prevailing currents anyway, like there's a perfect storm for convergence for a lot of things that can help maybe enhance it. But I definitely think it's important. Whether it actually does anything or not, I don't know. No clue. But I mean, if it was something I really cared about and it was really important to me, I would do what I could. I did that for my kiddos in my local school district. So I would hope that that's no different than what he's doing. It cares about something deeply and he goes for it. So it's the
What
same.
was the
So
issue?
yeah, I think it can be. Yeah.
What was the thing you were protesting with the kids?
Oh, no, no, not protesting. I just mean being involved, just in general, like civic participation,
Yeah,
civic surface area,
right,
it,
right.
whatever. So just because I went out and I supported my kiddos thing didn't mean that I didn't have a stern thing or two to say about to my elected officials, or to like if I'm going to volunteer my time here, I want to make sure that we're on the right path here and that I'm being heard. Essentially, that's what he's talking about. We want to be heard. not only heard, but we want to be taken seriously. And then, you just talked about influence, influencing other people who are serving active or whatever. I assume you're talking about people who are active or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So people know that people support them, but Ken, I have to say, obviously these things can't be easily measured. But on the other hand, I don't know of any movement, be whatever it is, that the kinds of things that Veterans for Peace is doing and other activist organizations, what movement hasn't had those activities taking place that brought about almost everything you and I have, you know? So, and we know for sure that in repressive regimes, they don't allow these things. They feel like that they're effective or they wouldn't repress them. But fortunately, we live in a place that the structure that we started out with, the Bill of Rights, laid out that we can do these things. And our founding generation, that's what I call them more than the founding fathers, but specifically the founding fathers knew that these tools were important uh, in order to move forward self-government. I mean, that's why they wrote that stuff down. So it's got to be, and I would say just based on those things, that it makes a difference over time. One action does not, right? But over time, yes.
Right. So which
Momentum,
organizations?
momentum.
Okay. Which group of people or organizations do you feel are more positive to bringing about, let's say in this case, the conflict between the U.S. and Iran, with unions, the church, teachers, vets? Where do you find your most support, and who do you feel is coming in with a positive solution that says, okay, here's how we solve this?
Mm,
Because I mean, there's a conflict. So
yeah.
you talk to one side or the other, and each side says there'll be peace as soon as the other guys give up and surrender. But
Oh,
if you get somebody who's coming up with a logical, here's the answer. This is what we do to bring about a resolution.
I see. Well, I would have to say honestly, I wish it was really like that, because the conflict that's happening in Israel between Palestinians and Israel, or Iran and Israel, is different from the reasons that the United States is involved. The United States is foreign policy takes advantage of the conflicts wherever the conflicts are taking place. So our solving the conflict, which we can't do, I can't come up with that, because the Iranians and the Israelis and the Palestinians really have to do that. But what we can do is talk about how much, and we do, should we be supporting? Should we be sending arms? Why are we involved? And we could talk about, which we do, like nuclear weapons in general. How many times are we going to talk about going to war over nuclear weapons? And why are we not doing more to ensure non-proliferation for everybody? So these are the type of things we can talk about that really speak to our foreign policy. But the conflicts themselves, what's happening in, as I said, in those regions, those people have to figure those things out. We can't. I can't come to your house and figure out what's going on in your house and give you a solution. Only you can do that. So we wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. What's your? How do you feel about that, Mr. Shaw? Do you feel that that's? What do you think? Who's supportive of creating a resolution to the conflicts that are going on? What
Well, I
parties?
think that I think the longer it goes on without good, better communication, the Senate, we might be at risk of the Congress and the Senate actually, oh my God, doing their damn job and actually voting about eliminating executive power,
Yeah.
which will be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if it's bad or good, but we're getting closer in line with that time. So the administration better figure out how they want to communicate to push back that, or to satisfy whatever, buy a bribe their their appropriate Congress or senator or whatever. I'm just kidding, but I don't know. I was curious about when we say war in general, do we mean like everywhere, like we should not have U.S. troops everywhere, or like just specific areas of the world, like where it's unusually extra inflammatory, like the last 40 years in the Middle East, you could argue. You see,
Yeah.
from
You're asking me that question?
yeah, versus
Mhm.
like, okay, say like we have peaceful Europe, right? And we have like, when we have like a Ramstein or whatever base or whatever post over there, usually it's a friendly, agreed, like they want us over there, like that is like a separate kind of agreement between us and that country. Like, and usually it's good. It's like, it's peaceful. They're peaceful. There's no war, in other words, right? So like, I guess what's that look like? If I could ask,
Well, sure, of
like
course. Yeah, I understand your question. So nothing should be changed overnight. Like when you say,
right, sure,
right, so just pull out the U.S. service members tomorrow, right? And that's unrealistic and can't happen. Um, but I think we should ask, what is the purpose of U.S. service members being all over the world? We have like 700 and something bases around the world. Why do we have 700 and something bases? Like in almost every country, the United States, not every country, but almost every country. No other country approaches that at all. I mean, you can count on your 10 fingers the other nations, how many bases they have in other countries. Um, so if we want a peaceful world, are we saying we're the police of the world and we decide what should be happening? Or are we trying to help create peace in the world so we don't have to, if we feel like we have to have troops there? Let's say we're really trying to be the good guys for a moment. Um, then are we actually trying to help them have peace so we can bring our troops home and not have service members need to be away from their families, not have to spend the money that we spend? Like they're talking about a $1.5 trillion military budget, right? So already if you include everything, it's $1 trillion. And then if you include the cost of, I'm a vet and I go to the VA. So if you include all that stuff, it's even more. So if we really are trying to ensure that there's a peaceful world, I would say you have to ask, why are we have troops everywhere and there's no plan to begin to bring them all back home? What is the effort for that? So I would pose to you that that is not why we have troops all over the world to keep things peaceful. It is to control things. And that's a different thing. And so Europe specifically, which you just spoke to, which is fair, because you're right, the Europeans do want us there, and in part because they're afraid of Russia. And I think that they have a good reason to, because the history in Europe has been one of war and grandizement, but not of just Russia. Germany, invaded Russia. There's,
common sense,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
France invaded Germany. I mean, there's been, let's just look at 500 years and you see them all invading each other. So there has been a long peace there. Um, I would say largely because, well, they were exhausted after World War II. So part of it is just war exhaustion. But also, because we're there to kind of keep the peace. So, what are we doing? And interestingly, in a way, Trump is trying to pull us all completely out, and is forcing the Europeans to rethink their own security, which is a good and bad thing for a peace person because they're going to start spending more money on warfare. And they're even talking about their own nuclear umbrella. So that might start more proliferation of nuclear weapons,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what are we doing though to really create peace? That's the question. And I don't have the answer to exactly how to do
Well,
that.
just never mind war or peace or you or
Yeah.
me or right or left or up or down or whatever, blah blah blah.
Right.
Like just the nuclear thing, just for a case in point, just to pull that out and go back
Yeah.
right into the Middle East, which is like Saudi Arabia, like 2025. They announced like a partnership, an alliance, like with Pakistan. So like if something happens to Saudi Arabia, Pakistan will respond in kind. Not only that, but essentially, I believe I need to go double check this, but I'm pretty sure that essentially that would mean that anything on Pakistani soil that is fair game for whatever could be moved to Saudi Arabian soil. In other words, there could be a nuke that could be deployed in defensive of, Pakistan. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that that's what an agreement like that looks like. So to your point about nukes, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that.
Okay, well, all right. How many years you been doing this, working on Veterans for Peace?
Too long.
Not that's one or two lifetimes, that's all.
Yeah. I've been executive director actually 3 times now. So altogether, oh man, I have to think about, I don't know, 14 years maybe?
Okay, so there's got to be that you have developed a strategy of what are the basic building blocks to approach conflict and convert it to peace. Peace is a word. You can look it up in the dictionary. It basically means, to most people, I believe, the absence of conflict. But you could say there's got to be some elemental functions, like a lot of people feel that you have to have a satisfaction of the fundamental aspects of existence, like shelter, food, and health, and absence of violence, of conflict, protection of property. So, like, you don't steal my wife and you don't steal my car. And then these are there's got to be fundamental blocks that you can say, here's 10 blocks. So let's try and reinforce the 5 that are still existing and then create the 5 that are missing. What are the blocks of peace? What is peace based on?
So first, let me say that peace is not necessarily the absence of conflict. It certainly is the absence of war and violence, but there's always going to be conflict of some sort. So the idea is to have peaceful means to resolve the conflict, and peaceful meaning nonviolent, right? But there's always going to be conflict. Um, our overarching mission is to abolish U.S. policy of using war as a policy.
Only the U.S. Only the U.S. What about
Yeah,
China, North Korea?
Because we don't. No, we're not trying to change every nation's policies because I'm not citizen of every nation. We will
Veterans
hope
for Peace is just for the U.S.
Veterans for Peace U.S. We do have some chapters in other nations. So they would primarily be working on what their country is doing too.
Let me just interrupt for a second, because I did some work with Amnesty. And Amnesty originally used to have a policy of people in the U.S. would only address abuse of individuals' civil liberties in other countries, because if you did it in the U.S., then the U.S. government could come say, "What are you talking about? We wanted to put these people in jail, and now I'm going to come after you now." But if you say you're talking about France or Italy or Korea, and you're writing letters and saying, "Please let this guy out of jail just because of what he said," and you could criticize and you could create an influence in foreign countries, but you weren't expected to try to create it in your own, because you're not in a safe space to do it in your own. So it's just the opposite of what you said. That was their policy. I don't know what it is now.
That's interesting. Yeah, but no, because I served in the United States military, so I feel like I have the right to speak about, and as I spoke earlier about the Bill of Rights, I have the right to speak about our foreign policy and domestic policy. So I do. So I couldn't imagine. I'm not really into trying to tell other countries, even Israel, which I disagree with their policy, but mostly I'm trying to stop the U.S. from supporting their policy. I might personally, I might speak out about something because, other countries do things and I
Yeah.
see people, because I care about everybody. So if I see somebody doing something that's fucked up somewhere else, I'll say something about it. But as far as, really organizing, I don't think that's my place, so.
Okay. Mr. Shaw, do you think there's elemental principles that are the foundation of having the ability to create peaceful activities or peaceful time?
Uh,
Essential,
like
foundations.
like what? I mean, I guess
No,
you mean
no
like what?
poverty.
Are you asking me what's required for peace?
Well, what are the building blocks? What would you have to have? What were the things that would destroy a peaceful atmosphere?
Oh
Like if
well,
everybody's starving to
there.
death, it's going to be difficult.
Absolutely. I guess the technical term would be like maybe at a most fundamental level, like unmanaged scarcity, like where you spend so much time and energy on trying to get the basic essentials. You don't have any energy above that level. So like that would be one. And then obviously you have to have enough security and peace around you, and you'd have to trust your neighbor. I think there's quite a bit that goes into that. Like obviously above that, but that, and then I think you have to have stability across the board, and you have to have you know a way to express yourself. I think I'm biased toward a democracy, but
Me too.
but there's plenty in China where they can talk and speak as much as I or you or anybody else. They just don't dare broach certain topics or subjects, and you won't know that until they tell you you can't do that, which is more chaotic than I would care for, and not a system I'd care to be or live in. But aside from that, I would also like a peace would mean, to me, like freedom, like where I can go and do whatever I want. If that's go drink my life away, I can do that. Or vice versa. If I want to live a long life, I agree with you as well, Michael. Like I identify when that people or when the question about citizenship comes up, I say I'm a citizen and a veteran because I think that those two things are forever linked. Not because I'm telling them that because I want my 10% discount on Veterans Day or whatever, but because I think it's important. And I don't think that I have a better say than anybody else, but it means something to me. I don't know about. I'm sure it means something to Michael as well, and
Yes,
to
it
you
does.
as well.
Yeah.
But that's what I don't know. Peace, just general peace. Whatever. You don't have to worry. You just don't have to worry. You can just you can go and do as what you want. You don't have to worry about your next door neighbor coming through your living room or something. No, because they don't like the way you, I don't know, XYZ. And they're that's just the way it is there. Might makes right, which can bring peace, but not a stable one that lasts. Anyway.
The King I think he called that a negative piece.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very interesting way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. How about the concept that fundamental aspect of establishing peace is the agreement that you're going to have agreed upon realities or laws or protocols. Like if you start with people and they may hate each other, and you say, but let's agree to this. Now, this is from old time battles that happen in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
You will not attack my family. If we're going to fight, the soldiers will fight. But you will not come after the civilians. You will not kidnap my wife or children. In fact, there was many I read about or seen on TV that battles would occur between different segments in a region or in a country, and they'd say, "Well, okay, we're not going to fight. Okay, we're going to talk. So let me have your wife and your cousin, and he's going to live with us. And now I'm going to give you my brother and my niece, and they're going to live with you." And that's how we know we're going to hold them as hostages,
Mm-hmm.
not in prison, but we're going to hold them as a guarantee that we're not going to attack each other. So then you agree upon a protocol. There's got to be an agreement on protocol that's what will lead to peace. If you start in with people and say, here's a good one. Whatever you do, don't throw garbage in the water. Don't contaminate the sea and the ocean. Okay? Don't kill children. Children under the age of 7 are innocent no matter what they did, even if they burned down a building. So you could start with that. In other words, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that those things that I mentioned as examples
Mm-hmm.
are the kind of agreements you have to make. But right now we have an agreement that while I'm talking, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're just courtesy about it. So then we can start with that we will listen to each other. And that's a basic thing. The agreement that we will have certain concepts that we both agree on. We're also agreeing to speak English. I know you might. I think I get Mr. Shaw. I think speaks 2 or 3 languages, and I don't. But maybe you do. No,
Redneck.
That's the only thing
whatever.
I
But
can
we're,
speak.
we're all talking English, and we're all talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same planet. So we're not talking about the spiritual nature of man and who's going to save us or anything. We're not bringing in religious concepts. We're not
42
bringing in
or
that.
whatever the answer is.
We're just talking about human nature and how would you get human beings to come to a resolution of non-conflict. So what is the fundamentals? Because, especially in the Middle East, you got Jews, Christians, and Islam and Muslims, and they have different concepts about reality, about what's significant and what's important and what has to be. So if they start talking at each other, between the Palestinians and the Israelis is basically one says, "You don't belong here," and then the other side says, "No, you don't belong here," and they just go back and forth on that. So they don't have any opening where they can discuss things and say, "We both belong here," or "We're going to tolerate that. We're going to pretend that we both belong here." Okay, you may be right. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe you don't belong here. Maybe you do and I don't. But let's pretend. What if we both belonged here? What then? How about that? So we'll play that game like it's a parlor game. You have to have a doorway to communication and the ability to dissolve disagreements. There's got to be an agreement about it, some kind of an agreement. Like we'll both, no nudity. While we're talking, no nudity. Keep your clothes on, Start with something we can both agree on. Go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, yeah. Let me that. So, well, first, let me say that, and you said this earlier, basic needs need to be met. So that's important, because people are hungry. Basic needs aren't met. They're going to be doing whatever they can to get their basic needs met. So we can go with that. But I watched a young man, and I think he was I don't know if he was the valedictorian or what, but I saw a YouTube video of a young man giving a speech. I think it was at Harvard. And he started out saying, I'm going to tell you a story that starts out, there was a Jew, a Muslim, and a Christian in a bar. And then he was like, well, I know that sounds a little hairy when we start out with the stories like this, right? But turns out that, and I can't remember exactly how it went, but 2 of those people were like his grandparents that got married. And at the end, and he's saying how now, here I am. He's Jewish, but his grandparents, one is Muslim and one might be Jewish. I can't remember. And he was saying as he grew up, he watched them have the talks that you were talking about, kind of where they had huge disagreements with each other, but they still cared about each other and they asked about each other. And for him, the thing was not that they ever had to agree, because he said they were both stubborn, so they never agreed. But they were willing to try to understand each other and try to understand why a person might have those thoughts or believe what they believe. but never ever necessarily had to agree. So the key is not necessarily, I think, and I was like, wow, that makes sense. It's not necessarily agreement. It's being able to kind of see the person as a human being and understand how they got to the place of thinking that. So then you have some connection through that understanding. I might still disagree with you, but I can see why you might think that stupid mess that you think. But I totally disagree with that. You know, so that I think is the beginning of some kind of connection. One last thing about that though, because I'm sitting there thinking, wow, that's great, but if a Ku Klux Klan person just thinks I'm an animal, it's hard for me to make that where I could see, except for that's what you were taught. You were taught that about me, right? But are you choosing to continue to think that about me? Why is it that you continue to want to think that about me? So how do I was just thinking about, well, how do I make that next step for that connection? And is that person, that other person also has to be coming back with some kind of connection to me. Can you understand why I don't like that, Mr. Ku Klux Klan dude? You know what I mean? So there has to be some on both ends. There has to be some reaching. That's a really important part of it. If that's not there, I can't bridge him thinking I'm an animal. At some point, it's like, you're fucked up, dude. I can't deal with you.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Your comments on that, Mr. Shaw? Oh, now Alex has joined us. We're just going over.
Yeah,
Uh,
let Alex get in on it.
okay.
I'm sure he wants to
Uh,
talk.
Michael McPherson is up there above you. I don't know where you see him on your screen, but they just recently did a sit-in in Washington about the war, the U.S.'s actions in Iran and support of Israel. So they were protesting that, and they're going to do more of that in Philadelphia coming up. What date,
Right.
Michael? When are you going to do the thing in Philadelphia?
We're gonna do take part in a march in Philly,
When?
um, during the 4th of July.
4th of July. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Alex, what do you think about
Well,
organizations like Veterans for Peace
I
trying
think
to save the world from
they're
killing themselves?
great. Again, I know some of the people who helped found, Vietnam veterans against the war, back in, well, I guess it would have been 70, I think. So yeah, and obviously, yeah, veterans have, they get a bigger loudspeaker usually with the kind of things as they have credibility with their experiences. But in terms of, yeah, like dealing with prejudice, I mean, we just had the Israel parade in here in New York, and of course, a lot of people are attacking the mayor for not going. But what about all these, American politicians again? Not all Jewish. Former Mayor Adams was there, for example. And they're marching next to Smotrich, who may be about to be indicted, by the International Court of Justice for war crimes. Along with Netanyahu, and like, yeah, basically he funds as yeah, he's I think he's the Minister of Finance, but he basically funds all these illegal settlers, who are essentially he funds them conducting pogroms in the West Bank, and yeah, so he gives them money to to these far right settlers. So basically, if you're marching with him, you're essentially saying, I'm okay. And of course, yeah, Senator Schumer, of course, did that and spoke about, yeah, he's a Zionist and pro-Israel and all that, even though, yeah. So
Okay.
he's essentially, and you do that, you're basically endorsing. If you march, literally next to him, there, and I think they made Smotrich one of the grand marshals of the parade again. A
Wow.
guy who should be, at the Hague, being put on trial for, for war crimes.
Well,
So,
Wow.
what if you're marching with the Palestinians who are objecting to what Israel's doing? What would you talk about? What does that represent? if you're supporting the
Well,
Palestinians.
none of them are going to be,
Huh?
Hamas fighters because they would be, if they showed up in New York, they would be automatically arrested. So it's not, it's not a question of that.
Well, they would no. What are you talking about? They were all over Colombia. They weren't all
No,
over.
no, I'm talking about actual, not people who are accused, oh, well, you're with Hamas because you don't condemn them or, or just because you happen to be Palestinian too. I'm talking about, this is equivalent, yeah, to actual Hamas fighters, whether you think that's good or not. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, in
Are
my
you
opinion, again, these are people who are conducting a genocide. If you're in that government, then,
Yeah.
regardless of, you're just some kind of minor, minor minister of like culture or something. You don't have anything directly that you're part of that government, Like,
Okay.
same thing
So
if, I mean, I don't see them, the mayor or, well, the previous mayor, all these politicians, I don't think they show up for the Russian, which I'm sure that they have every year, Russian American parade, there. Everybody, of course, I'm sure condemn, evil Russians killing Ukrainians, and we don't like them, or yeah, or well, they show up, yeah, for the when they show up for like, yeah, the Cuban parade, it's not in support of the government of Cuba, of course. That's going to be, the right-wing exiles who are in that community, or yeah, or with the Iranian community. I assume there are, probably will be some people in that parade, yeah, who are support that government, whether it's Iran. But yeah, but again, that's not who the politicians are, who are courting and showing up for. Which again, it's just about, yeah, who's the official enemies of the United States of America. You don't like their government, but if and if they're joining you in your American war crimes, then like in Afghanistan or something, then yeah, we think it's
okay.
great.
Okay. So without any logical connection, I'm just going to jump into the recent primary results in six
Oh yeah,
different
in
states.
LA.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with a brief introduction by CBS. Let me give it a shot to share this, and I'm on a different computer and everything. So give me a moment. There we go. Share sound. Da, da. And I just need to say advanced, I guess. Nope. Portion of screen. Okay, share. And I go here. There we go. Almost got it. There we
Ken, for
go.
some reason, it's not showing the whole screen. I don't know why. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Whoop-de-doo. Come on.
Tuesday, cast ballots in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Oregon, Idaho, and Kentucky. The closely watched GOP Senate race in Pennsylvania is still too close to call. Trump-backed candidate Dr. Mehmet Oz has a small lead over former hedge fund manager Dave McCormick. Meanwhile, on the Democrat side, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman won his Senate primary in a landslide. Yesterday, he underwent a procedure to implant a pacemaker after suffering a stroke Friday.
In North Carolina, former President Trump's endorsement was not enough to save freshman Congressman Madison Cawthorn. The scandal-prone congressman conceded the race for the state's 11th district to opponent Chuck Edwards. Joining us now is CBS News Washington reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. And Caitlin, so good to see you. So much to get to here, but let's talk first about Pennsylvania. What's behind the very tight GOP Senate race there?
Yeah, Nancy, this was a really exciting race to watch. It is Wednesday. That means we were up late last night on a Tuesday covering these races. And what's significant here is that we were watching to see the power of the Trump endorsement and whether it could push Oz, Dr. Oz, over the edge in Pennsylvania. He is who Trump backed there. But he is currently locked in a very tight race. You see it on your screen with Dave McCormick. A very, very small margin there. And the question going into last last night was whether Kathy Barnett, who had this last-minute surge in the polls in the days leading up to this contest, could duke it out, could come out on top. It appears that she has not, and so this is really a race between Dr. Oz and McCormick. And since Trump backed Dr. Oz, we were wondering what kind of effect that would have had. We didn't see it contribute to a huge bump in the polls or a huge bump in fundraising the way that we saw it play out in Ohio when he endorsed a candidate there. But in Pennsylvania, a recount will be triggered if the final tally is less than a half percentage point. So something to keep an eye on in this very tight race that we don't yet know the results of.
Exciting race there. But staying in Pennsylvania, Caitlin, Doug Mastriano will face the state's Democratic Attorney General Josh Shapiro for governor in November. What can we expect from that race?
This is a really important race to watch because Doug Mastriano, who won the Republican primary for Pennsylvania governor, he is a top election denier in this country. He's been a top ally of the former president. He has been promoting the false lies about the election being stolen. Subpoenaed by the January 6th committee for information because he was at the Stop the Steal rally and he was actually outside the Capitol on the day of the insurrection. There are photos there. He has been pushing for the election results to be overturned. And so the idea that he is going to be the Republican nominee in the Pennsylvania governor's race is really important to watch. And it's important because Pennsylvania's governor picks the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State there, of course, oversees elections. So if he is elected, he would be in charge of picking the person that oversees elections, and this is someone who has denied that the election results of 2020 are in fact true. So something to keep an eye on there. Josh Shapiro was the Attorney General, a Democrat. This will be a very important race to watch in Pennsylvania. Could be somewhere that Democrats want to hold on to.
That's really interesting, Caitlin. And I also want to ask you about in North Carolina. We know that Representative Cawthorn, who has been very controversial to say the least, had the former president's backing, also lost his seat last night. So how did other Trump-backed candidates do?
Yeah, that was a fascinating race, Nancy, because Madison Cawthorn had Trump's endorsement, but his opponent, a state senator who eventually won that race, had the backing of a variety of different local important Republican lawmakers, including junior Senator Tom Tillis, who was running an avid campaign. In terms of Trump's power there, but it was really actually a mixed bag in terms of Trump endorsements. While he lost that there, he was successful in backing the Republican nominee for the Senate race there, a really critical race to watch. He backed Ted Budd, and he came out on top, beating the former governor, Pat McCrory, in that primary. Also in Idaho was a really interesting primary to watch because you had the governor, the incumbent governor, facing a primary from his lieutenant governor, who was endorsed by Trump. The incumbent ended up winning that primary, so a loss for Trump there. But Trump also endorsed another House candidate in North Carolina last night who won. So a mixed bag, but again, we're waiting on those Pennsylvania results to give us some data points about what Trump's influence is here. We know he's still a major figure in the Republican Party. He's someone who Republicans are seeking approval and endorsements from. But whether that actually gets his candidates over the finish line and makes a big difference, we're waiting to see on that Pennsylvania race to give us some.
I have one comment I'd like to make. I know this is going to get me in trouble, but I have to say it. The more times I watch the legacy media, I'm seeing an overabundance of female commentators. Just more and more, like 70% of the time, 80% of the time. It's usually young females, very debonair looking and so forth. But it's not a lot of, used to be a lot of old men. They're all gone, out in the field, retired. That's all, just a comment. So, what do you think about these returns? Alex, you're going to give us the hottest response.
Well, Ken, those recent, I think that story's
Yeah,
a
I
old
mean, it's
story.
been like Dr. Oz won that primary. So, for example, they don't mention that. Obviously, that's before I think his opponent had conceded. But it's, I think that's good for Fetterman because, Oz already lost. I don't know, forget if it was to him in the previous time he ran. So I think Fetterman's probably, despite his health problems, it's probably, well, I'm not a shoo-in, but he's likely to win, I think.
Wait a second, one moment. In most
No.
primaries, if they get 51%, don't they? That's it.
No. It's a three-way. So it's whoever got, and I don't think he won.
No.
Again,
If one guy, one of the three or one of the 20, gets 51, or let's say 55%.
No.
That should be it.
It's just, it's divided by whoever, you just need the most votes from all the candidates. You don't need 50, although,
No,
probably
no.
again.
If you have 20 people running for office,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of them gets 51%.
There's no run.
You don't have to have a
I don't
float.
think there's a runoff in Pennsylvania. They don't do
Right.
it that way.
I don't think that those
Yeah, yeah.
stories are the most recent
Right. Yeah, yeah.
primary stories, though.
Right.
And there
See,
isn't anything on the LA primary, for example.
Yeah,
Well,
those
to you,
stories are
Ken,
old,
I'm sure you can tell about, yeah. 'Cause
very old.
I mean, it's
Like years.
crazy that
So
the
let's get
choices
this.
between Mayor Bass and a reality show.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's get this straight.
Person.
Did Hemet, what is his name, Oz, Dr. Oz, did he win or lose or what?
He won the primary.
He won the primaries.
His opponent conceded, even though it was pretty close. They
So,
But he
both had
lost
like
the election.
31 point something percent, I think.
but whoever came in second will be there for a runoff, right?
No, he won the primary. I don't think they have a runoff.
That was from like 2024.
Yeah, your
like,
stories are old. There's old, like years old.
Okay.
That's not.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
that
Yes, Fetterman's not up to run again until 2028.
Okay. Ken, you got the wrong.
I picked an old one.
Yeah, because when they
That's
were
what I
like,
was thinking, yeah.
Fetterman went to the hospital, I'm like, again? So I'm looking like, oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
happened back then. That's not, he didn't go to the hospital
Ken,
recently.
That's pretty.
Okay, so we'll
Right, because they would
say-
mention the LA primary.
Yeah, I went to RCP because I wasn't for sure. I don't know everything, and I looked to see if there's PA was running. I don't see PA on the map that's up for contest anyway.
Right, yeah, because I don't think I don't think Shapiro is up for
Alex,
for
do you have a more appropriate video?
well, let me have to look it up now.
You're looking at one?
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead. Give him a chance. Just keep it under 5 minutes.
I'm gonna have to leave. But I saw that one of your topics was the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a link there.
Yeah, and I watched it. Go ahead.
Did you watch that link?
I watched the link. The guy was cracking me up. So one thing he left out when you all watch it is that the Boy Scouts got sued for a whole lot of money, like 2-point-something billion dollars.
Bankruptcy.
Yeah. So when this guy, $2.46 billion settlement to compensate victims and establishing a scouting settlement trust. So when you watch it, he's going to talk about why the Boy Scouts changed their name and masculinity and all this stuff. But he fails to talk about that 82,000 sexual abuse claims, 82,000 sexual abuse claims. I knew that there were sexual abuse claims. I had no idea it was 82,000. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
you think
I'm not
correct? You think they're valid?
Well, I mean, there's a $2.46 billion settlement that the Supreme Court apparently.
Wait a minute. 82,000 people say, I make a claim. I make a claim I was abused. You think there's 82,000 victims?
Okay, let's say there's 30,000. There's still a whole lot of people who have been abused by the Boy Scouts.
Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible?
The Boy Scouts. That's why they got to pay this $2.46 billion. And this guy wants to act like there's some kind of conspiracy from the left because of feminism and all this kind of stuff as to why the Boy Scouts changed their name. And at the same time, he's not talking about the fact that thousands of boys were abused by the Boy Scouts. Please, no, that is not why the Boy Scouts changed their name because of the left. They changed their name because they're trying to figure out how to save themselves after this ridiculous scandal. And he should be ashamed of himself that he's even trying to defend them. He talks about how the good reasons for the Boy Scouts being started, yes, to teach young boys how to grow up to be good men. But look what happened. We had a conspiracy amongst the Boy Scouts to, just like the Catholic Church and other religious organizations, to protect leaders who were abusing boys. So
Yeah.
please, when you
Okay,
watch
wait a
it,
minute. Slow
you
down a
hear
second.
why I'm
Slow down
angry.
a
I'm
second.
really angry about that.
Okay, get angry. Wait, let me ask you a question. Let's pick a
Yeah.
state: New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, and let's look at the public schools and let's add
Yeah.
up the number of claims of physical or sexual abuse that occurred in that facility over a period of 20 years. Because there was no what's it called? They removed the barrier where you can't go more than 5 years back. They removed that, so that goes back to the 82,000 or 30,000, whatever the claim is. It's for the
Yeah.
entire existence of the
Okay.
Boy Scouts. So let's say I did that for the entire existence of the Texas Department of Education, and every case of claim of abuse, sexual abuse, racial abuse, saying I'm too fat, any kind of a thing that upset me, I want to claim and I want to sue the Texas Board of Education.
How you
And
gonna make
then the
equal
solution
sexual
is,
abuse and
well, they're
call somebody
bad.
fat?
Let's get rid of it. Let's close down the schools. No more schools.
They're not closing down the Boy Scouts. They changed their name.
No,
So
well,
here's the deal. There shouldn't be thousands if when people found out it was happening, they
Yeah.
stopped it.
well,
And
those
they
are
enforced.
individuals. There were individuals who were guilty.
Yes,
Individuals
but
are guilty.
look,
It's
what are you
not
talking about, man?
it's not all Boy Scouts that are guilty.
No, it's not. But there's
It's
leaders.
individuals. It's
What are you
individuals.
saying? What are you saying? There are leaders. There are people who knew that this was happening, just like in
Yeah,
the
they
Catholic
should go to
Church
jail.
and
They should go
other,
to jail.
right. And they didn't hold people accountable and saying, we're not going to stand for this happening. They covered it up so they could make sure the organization looked good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
going to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But the net
This
effect,
has nothing to do. I was going to say too. There's two different things that are going on here,
right?
and
Yeah.
Michael is saying is that this is not justice. This is the civil effect because of their negligence
Yeah.
for this. This is an effect on because of their behavior led to this such a high award. That's not justice. Justice is what you're talking about, Ken. Like justice is a different thing. That's a different concept for this, in my opinion. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to.
No, that's okay. You're
do you
saying
mean?
that it's what he's talking about is the victims, and what I'm talking about is the criminals. That the justice is to punish the criminals, much as it is to, try to assist the victims.
Yeah, obviously, administratively, like a $2.46 billion thing against an organization is gonna, rightfully decimate it or whatever, for it to force itself to go and change and do something
Right.
or go away. Either
Right.
way, whatever. Like
Right.
obviously
Right.
that
Wait
is,
a
but
minute,
that
both of you
but that is
guys are
not
in the
justice.
military.
That is not.
Both-
I'm just saying, in my book, that's not justice. That's a different. That's a
Yeah, I
different
hear
thing.
what you're
Well,
saying.
both
That's
of you
not
guys,
justice at all.
both
I
of you
hear-
guys
I
are
hear
in
what
the
you're saying.
military, right?
We were, yeah.
We're both veterans. In what aspect of the military did you observe harassment or sexual abuse? And don't tell me you didn't see it.
Well, I can't say that I saw sexual abuse. I mean, yeah, there were certain levels of harassment by drill sergeants and things like that. They called it training. But tell me what your question is, though, because I'm
Well,
trying to
in
follow.
any organization, you're going to get people who have bad intentions. I don't know the mechanical stuff of the Boy Scouts, but it's a large, long-term organization, and it's just out of business. I understand they changed the name, but it's running in the 170 other countries.
Yeah,
Didn't get closed down. So
yeah,
I'm just saying, I think it's a question of liberty of litigation. I say, oh, how much? I think the quote was an average guy will get $35,000 or something like that, or $3,500 because there's so many claims.
yeah. It says payouts to survivors range from 3,500 to 2.7 million.
Yeah.
But that guy in the video you showed didn't address any of this. All he wanted
Well,
to
of
do
course
was
he
talk.
can.
Right. All he wanted to do was talk about how he thinks there's some kind of conspiracy and because of feminism and whatever. And I'm like,
Oh,
wait a minute.
it's
I
the
thought,
liberal media. Oh,
right, masculinity has gone away, And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought there was some sexual abuse. Let me look this up. And like, oh my God, it's worse than I thought. You think that had anything to do with what's happening, my boy? Come on. Let's be honest here. That's the only thing I'm saying. The guy's a joke. That's he's a joke. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Fine. Good enough. I disagree because there was an
So you
organization
think,
called,
Matt, you think that the left, because of the rise of feminism, that's why the Boy Scouts changed their name. It has nothing to do with them trying to rebrand themselves. And you don't think it has anything to do with that after what does that say? $2.46 billion
the money
settlement.
doesn't mean anything.
And
It's just the
and
lawyers.
no, it means something because you have to pay that. That's a lot of money.
Well,
I
yeah,
think
but
they almost went,
that's what
and they
was
filed
what
for bankruptcy. They went to Chapter 11, so it means something.
yeah.
Also, I remembered that there was all these sexual complaints against them. I mean, I'm not even trying to remember that, and I remembered that. So you have to rebrand yourself because you don't want people to think that about you anymore. There's a lot more going into why they changed their name than simply some idea that, oh, now there's girls there, which that plays a role too. And okay, so there's most girls don't want to be in didn't want to be in the scouts. They want to be in Girl Scouts. So you got a few girls that come. That's not going to change what you're teaching.
Well, you sound like you don't like the Boy Scouts.
Oh no, I don't dislike the Boy Scouts at all. I
Well,
I
what'd you say?
dislike
What did
this
you just
guy.
say? What did you
I
just
just
say? You said that doesn't deal with what they were teaching.
I'm saying that that's not going to change what the Boy Scouts taught if you
What
have
did
a
they
few
teach?
girls.
What did they teach?
Well, I was in the Cub Scouts for a short period of time, and
Uh,
and they didn't necessarily they taught you values, and those values. This guy wants to act like those values are masculinity values when they're just basic values about how to be a good person. How to be honorable, how to be truthful. All that when you watch it, the things that he said that the Boy Scouts teach, they're not about being necessarily being a man, except if that's what you think manliness is. And for me, it's not manliness. It's about being an adult, about being a good person. If you're a man or a woman, whatever you are, these are the values you should have. These are the traits you should have. So I don't see how teaching people how to camp out or all the things that I learned as a Cub Scout, a girl could learn too if she wants to hang out with us. The guy's a joke. That's the only thing I have to say. And when you all see it, you will know exactly what I'm talking about, especially since he wants to put it all on some politics instead of also talking about, oh, there's a $2.46 billion lawsuit that they lost and they went into bankruptcy. You think that might have something to do with what's going
wasn't
on?
that in the video?
No,
Come on. I
no, it
know that.
wasn't.
It was in the video, of course.
Okay,
That how
maybe I
much
missed
and
it.
then they went bankrupt because they
they
Maybe it was. Want to watch it
could only
now? Let's watch it
afford
now.
they could only afford the PR guy from like that's just slightly above the sign that goes like this on the sales thing. That's why the quality is so bad.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
watch it.
anyhow,
Show it.
I think the work that guy does is good. You don't like it, fine.
Well, maybe it is on other things, but show the video.
Yeah, yeah. Click on the button. You got the invitation. You can all watch the video. You can all
You can't show it.
agree or
You
disagree, huh?
you can't show it.
It's in the link there. It says
I
maybe
know.
this
Can
is
you
the
show
answer.
it? Can you show it?
Oh, I don't want to show the whole thing now. It's like
Oh,
35
okay.
minutes, 20
No, it's
minutes.
not. It's 5 minutes.
Huh?
It's only 5 minutes.
No. Then maybe you didn't see the whole thing. Anyhow, Alex, let's get Alex to go. You got a video of
Yeah,
the
but I
reasonable
mean,
for the
it's
interview?
not short. I mean, it's not. But as well, this is if you want, more than just California. So like something like 5 minutes, but it's just about all the California races. I was thinking from
Was it about
CNN.
10 minutes? 10 minutes? 10
I mean, the whole
minutes?
thing is 18 minutes.
Oh. Well, you know what? Play
Because
it
they're,
and see
they're
what.
like primaries in Iowa, New Jersey.
Well, can you talk about them then?
I mean, I know them all. I can tell.
You have two links. One link is 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Why did the Boy Scouts vanish? Why the Boy Scouts
Yeah.
vanished? And it's 3 minutes and 12 seconds. And it's this
Oh,
guy explaining why the Boy Scouts got banned, why they vanished. And he doesn't say anything about these lawsuits. Maybe the other link does.
wait a
Maybe the
second.
other link.
There's the major link, and then it says here's the full link. Let me
Right.
see
So,
what that
yeah.
is. Let's see what the full link, how long it is.
If you manage travel spend and you're not using the van, you're missing out. Hi, I'm Sarah.
I'm
One
Anita.
second.
And we're part of the finance team at Rafa.
Why did the Boy Scouts disappear?
Okay, so
It's a
the
different
full
person.
link, where it says full link, where it says the full story, is 19 minutes and 43 seconds. And that must be the one you didn't see, because then he does mention all of the bankruptcies and everything. But I don't want to play that, it's too long, because everybody can watch that. I got to get back.
Yeah, but that's a different person, Ken. That's not the same guy. It's not.
Right. Okay. So what you're talking about, okay, let me take a look at that.
Yeah.
I just put
yeah.
that there as an introduction to it. Let me see
Oh.
what they said. 1 second. Why did the Boy Scouts disappear?
Yeah,
Why
show
did the
this-
Boy Scouts disappear? On May 7th, 2020.
Oh, this guy. Okay, right. I'll be frank with you. It's 3 minutes. I don't know what he said or anything. It was just an introduction. And but to get the full story is the other link.
Well, that guy's a joke. That's all I have to
This
say.
guy may be a joke. Yeah, he looks
Okay.
like
24, the Boy Scouts of America announced that after 115 years, the
Oh man. Okay.
organization would change its name to Scout.
Okay, wait a second. There's a key thing here. Okay, I agree. Maybe the guy's a bullheaded idiot. I'm not arguing that. But he says 115 years old. 115 years old, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a long period of time. So yeah, I'm sure they didn't go back.
No,
to
they did not
eventually
go
have
back.
115
Even worse.
years ago. But
That's
they
even
went
worse.
back. So somebody who's 50 years old says, when I was 11, I was mishandled. The guy made fun of me or whatever happened. I want the money. There's a
See,
lot
you
of claims.
listen to you. You're talking about making fun of. No, we're not talking about people being made fun of. We're talking about sexual abuse here. That's not the same thing. So let's not
They didn't handle.
do
I
that.
don't know what they did, but they didn't handle 35 different cases, 80,000 cases,
Okay.
and get 80,000 depositions.
Okay.
They had forms to fill out that people fill out forms and handed them in.
So
They
you
didn't-
don't
they
you don't
didn't
trust the
interview
people.
them.
You don't trust the people.
No, I trust
Well-
people to be greedy and.
Well, but hold on. But you're disputing the chain of authority or the chain of the claim. What do you
No.
think, that they just made them up, or do you think that they were
No.
legitimately
They
sincere
had
in their?
They had
claim.
claims. Let's say they had 80,000 claims, and so forth. I just think that it's part of issue. I don't know. I never had run into that, but I've run into homosexual activity as a young man. I've had men or older people approach me. I didn't have to be in the Boy Scouts.
No, I have too,
You
but
get
I
that
was
on the
grown.
street. Everybody's
Yeah,
got
but we're
something
not
like
talking
that.
about that.
Well, there you go. So when it happens in a Boy Scout, it's a crime. But if it happens,
Well,
in
yes,
school-
because I send my son to this organization to learn how to do things, and I don't expect him to be accosted by the scoutmaster. I mean, come
yeah,
on.
when it's a Scoutmaster, that's a major situation. We have it in schools now where the teachers we keep getting these reports about female teachers who've had sexual relations with students, 15,
saw that.
16-year-olds.
Yeah,
But the teachers, same thing, and the school didn't do anything about it.
right, and they should
always
be held
make-
accountable for it.
You don't close down the school. You get the people who committed the crime and you make them responsible for it. And you can sue the hell out of them, but you don't have to destroy an institution to get your revenge. And by
I
getting all of these
disagree.
cases,
I completely disagree with that.
you disagree. Okay. Well, how is that? Let's say like the Catholic Church, the same thing happened there.
If
Gross.
if if it
Did they
involves
close down the Catholic Church?
if it involves you judge a society on how it treats and defends its innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if in any way, shape, or form, if there is a factory essentially like an
Right.
industrial scale or approaching this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm being loose with the terms here, but we're obviously here rational. If they're so big and wide and they're so incompetent that they let that occur decade after decade after decade after decade, and it's part of my government, I'm paying for it, and these people are part of this, are part of the problem. I want that place to be administratively raised and the earth salted, period, in discussion, like gone. Like the local autonomy for that or whatever moves over to the next county or whatever the hell. In my personal opinion, that never happens, but that's what I would feel if I was to put myself in the shoes of a citizen whose son or daughter was, God forbid, or whatever. But that's what I would think. That's an extremist view, but that's what
No, it's not.
I would want,
It's not, because what Ken is talking about, you just talked about one or two in a space. But if you have, as I think, Michael, you were saying, like it's a systemic problem in the school, right? If it's a systemic problem and dozens of people were abused over several years, we got a serious problem here. All of y'all need to go. And we need to start over. And I totally agree with you.
Because sadly, in St. Louis, where I live, that has happened. The public school system was so incompetent, the state had to come in and take over it because it was, and that's not alone. That's not a unique thing that happens throughout the United States. Anyway, the St. Louis City Police School. Anyway, doesn't matter. But for example, like that, or another one that comes to mind would be there was a lot of many of these little townships and municipalities will have essentially a revolving door where if you're poor and you're whatever, you become known and attention, and this is like a revolving door. And if you can't pay the debt or whatever the infraction is, they just keep you in jail. Like that happened here to detrimental things. And most of those municipalities are gone. But it kept happening, and we had the thing that happened with Michael Brown and Ferguson.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I lived there then. Michael, I was living in St. Louis when that happened. I was part of the Don't Shoot Coalition and organized during that time.
Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool to know that. But anyway, point being, like the way that whole thing. Never mind Michael Brown. Now, I'm not even talking about that.
Yeah.
The way that that local city police chief and all those people handled that was a goddamn joke. They were fucking clowns. And anyway, it just showed that, in my opinion, there should have never been. It just should have been removed. All of them removed, like just gone. You're all incompetent. You're literally like, no. It's embarrassing enough. I personally think that they should have been administratively gone. Another example would be like down in Uvalde, the Uvalde Police Department or whatever that did nothing, and they could while things were danger, while innocence was being anyway, it doesn't matter. I get too worked up. That should be there should never be another Uvalde Police Department or whatever. I don't know, not a fire hydrant sprayed with their logo or whatever, in my opinion. But that's not always reality. But anyway, sorry.
No. I get you. You're saying that the inability to confront the fact that there could be an organization saturated with corruption, and the only thing you could do is evacuate it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the feeling would provoke. Anyway, if you were to touch on a hot button thing and talk about kids or your kids or whatever, that's like the most. That's the most sacred thing you could.
Children or abuse of prisoners.
Right. Yeah. Just innocent. Yeah. Kids. You send your kids away to go to school. You assume that they're going to be fine.
There was a judge who was sending kids to prison to make money.
Yeah. I heard about that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awful. That's awful,
Yeah.
awful,
Yeah.
awful. And there was no justice there. Like I don't that guy should. I don't even want to say what should happen to that guy. But yeah, that's awful. And that if there's one, there's got to be many. You know, how many are there? Little corrupt backwater or whatever. You know, where they got their own little thing going on, which is awful. But anyway, I just detailed some in St. Louis. Some of St. Louis's ugly parts, but it's still same point to make the point of like something like that. So awful. Like that's you violate the public trust. The innocent public is supposed to be the innocent public, not the fleecing public, not cash machine or victim or whatever god awful thing.
Okay, that's an interesting concept. So in the question of with this corrupt institution, which is abusing innocent, absolutely innocent individuals in some way that we all consider severe. It's not like they didn't give them 2 cookies with the milk. It's like they were abusive and they did things which are not acceptable, and it had to be closed down. And it was done through the courts, in essence, by pushing them into bankruptcy. Okay, I wouldn't argue with that. I agree. See, I changed my mind about something. How do you like that? Hey, somebody who just joined us is Jim.
Hey, Jim.
I made a mistake. I played an
Yeah, how you doing, guys? Unfortunately, the Knicks game is too fucking good to watch. So
Oh, man.
I got a book, man. It's really
Yeah.
like the Spurs are a great team. They're both great teams, so it's really fun to watch. So
Yeah,
I
about
regret
that.
politics has to be set aside tonight.
Yeah. I have to run myself.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Jim, could you give us your fast review on the preliminaries?
On what? It's a
The,
great game. They're both great teams.
No, not on the team. About the elections.
Oh, the elections. Oh my God. Well, who knows what the hell's going to happen? I mean, it's going to be one of the craziest elections in our history. It's going to be an election similar to what happened in the 1850s in the United States before the Civil War. I mean, look what happened today in the House. You guys must have talked about that, the vote in the House
No.
to implement or reinforce, I guess, a moderate version of the War Powers Act. And Trump, of course, is going to ignore that. So, and I don't think it's no slam dunk for the Democrats. I think that the measures that have been implemented, the SAVE Act, pushing for that, the executive orders being issued about mail-in voting, which may or may not be reinforced, but more importantly, the gerrymandering going on, is going to make it a difficult race. But on the other hand, Trump is giving them constant ammo. It's quite astounding to some of the comments, but that essentially seem to me to indicate that he views his, he could do whatever he wants, go down Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody in the street, ignore, I saw a poll in Iowa, 8 out of 10 Republican voters are suffering or a higher percentage, and then they're still going to vote for Trump. So he's got 35% of the electorate under his domain. And the question is how he's going to minimize the damage with the rest of them. And, so the Democrats, there's going to have to be real significant more deterioration in standards of living and et cetera for there to be some sort of, the demographics of gerrymandering districts are very scientifically calculated. And the results are to be expected, but who knows what will happen? I just think it's going to be one hell of a consequential midterm, that's for sure.
Okay. So did Oz win? Is he in?
Who? The Dr. Oz?
Dr. Oz.
Oh, that idiot. I don't know. I haven't been really paying attention. I mean, look at the moron bastard that they put in charge of national intelligence to replace Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, at least with her, she has military experience. This guy, what is his experience? Like real estate in Southern California? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's really, it's actually a national strategic threat. I mean, get a guy like that in there who's just basically going to cook the books intelligence-wise for Trump is really just, wow, unbelievable. I mean, even, you know, like a friend of mine who used to work in the National Security Council for Bush 1, you know, we're gonna bring him on the air like probably next week talking about things. A retired '06 colonel, and you know, he's been sort of, you know, he's a New Yorker, so he's not necessarily Mr. You know, he grew up in Queens, so he's not necessarily part of the fan club for Donald Trump being a New Yorker. But you know, you got all these guys in the centrist camps in Washington are just really upset about this stuff. It's not a joke. It's like amazing to me. You know, it's just truly amazing to me. But anyway, listen, I want to go back and watch this goddamn game, so I'll talk to you guys later. It's really a great game, and I think they're on a break and all, but unfortunately, sometimes sports do trump everything to me. All right. I mean, I mean, be literally that way. I mean, the Olympics are like that, you know, and when you got a really good, and then again, the Spurs could win. They're a really great team, and the Knicks are a great team too. So it's one hell of a battle to watch. I understand you're in New York, Kenny, right?
Let me look around here. Yep, this is New York.
All right. Well, we'll have to do a run up there at that Indian restaurant.
Yeah, we have to go up there.
Actually, I wanted to talk to you about streaming at some point because the Alex just finished his brief against Pacifica and torpedo Los tonight on my part. So I'll get into that later.
Which Alex
Anyway,
are talking about? Alex Stephanopoulos?
Alex Steinberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He torpedoed WBAI.
Yeah, no, he's torpedo. He sent a major missile launch at Pacifica, which I will send around later tonight. It's a brief filed in Los Angeles Civil Court.
Send that to me right away.
I will. Yeah, it's like basically going to be a lot of fun. But Michael, yeah, I'm glad, Mike, you were able to meet Michael McPherson. You never met him before, right?
No,
Yeah. They're leading a pretty interesting campaign. I think he is now the president for Ventures for Peace, is he not, Kenny?
Right.
Yeah. So they're doing interesting
executive
stuff.
director.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
his third time. It's his third time he's done that.
Yeah. And Michael's pretty practical about all this stuff. So we'll see what happens. All right, listen, back to the basketball game, guys. I'll see you later.
What basketball? What's the point of that game? No, okay, I'm joking. Basketball's are you? You're not obviously, Alex. It's not pulling.
No, I've been checking on it. Yeah, no, I'm a Knicks fan. So yeah,
You're not a Knicks fan.
I am. But I
Okay,
can
so do you think
check back
this is
in.
important for Michael Short to answer and then Alex to respond? How do you think effective, even honest these election system is going in these 7 states or these preliminaries? I know in California, I've heard, for 15 years they've had the nonpartisan primaries, and it usually winds up with no Republicans on the ballot, you know, because 2 Democrats would win.
I think as long as they accept my state's results, I'll accept their state's results. I think that because if you start breaking it down in the minutia, you could get into bad areas like you know, some areas of the country it's not unusual to allow non-citizens a say in their government. Is that right? Is that wrong? You know, how would you feel about that? I don't know. You know, how would you feel about that same person? How would you feel about the law enforcement officer who enforces the law not being a citizen? You know, I'm not saying one way or another. I'm just being provocative for like, where's the line? You know, where do we start questioning? And then if you start to get to that level, then, you know.
Well, we have 22 states that have declared sanctuary for.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah, and that's not even
22 out
counting
of
municipal.
50. 22 out of 50.
Yeah,
So that's
municipal areas or whatever. Yeah, I think there's other ways to kind of get their attention and whatever than to mess with the voting thing. But it's like I said, as long as my state's accepted, I'll accept other states, and whatever their system is and works for them is fine. If they say it's fine for them, it's fine for me. So that's what I would say, generally speaking. I mean, I don't like the fact that like I think that there are obvious mental gymnastics that occur in some of those sanctuary cities, but that's their problem. Like, if you got to do, there's math that says one way or another what's happening, and you get more. I also think that our whole system is out of whack anyway for representation. The shit's been locked at like whatever, like what is it, hundreds of thousands of people per district or whatever is the unit of measurement, and that's hard coded, and that hasn't changed since like 1930 or 29 or whatever the hell it was, or 31, I think. Like I got a problem with that. Generally speaking, but that's probably my biggest gripe as far as my vote goes, or accepting other states that could do whatever they're doing with voting or the integrity of the system.
Okay, let's check that ratio of. I got the House has 435 seats, and based on the census, that's about 761,169 people. Okay, let's say 761,000 Americans per representative.
Yeah, that was locked at 1931 when the U.S. population was like 125 million, if I'm being generous, or whatever. We're not quite three times that, but we're significantly bigger than that now.
Well, in 1910 it was 209,447, and now
power needs to be diluted.
Now it's 747,184.
Yeah, power needs to be diluted. I don't give a shit if I have 10,000 congressmen that run around. I'm joking. Obviously, that would be a comedy. That would be a comedy movie, not reality. But the point is, you're more likely to have normal people run and serve.
I agree. There's a factor to consider, which is how big a country can you run with one president? How big a country can you run with the system we have? Is it too many people?
Right. Well, we already have a very powerful executive. I don't need to tell anybody on this call. We have a very powerful executive, and we know that because when it's your person who you prefer in power, you want them to have all the power in the world. Right. But when it comes to it's not your person, you want no. But we have yet to limit or check presidential power. And sometime I think Biden really was the only one that did some bill or whatever. I don't know if it passed or went through, but I think it was supposed to limit some of it, but it didn't. I don't think it passed.
Well, how did you compare it to other countries where there's a much smaller population? The only places, big populations, India and China, and then some African countries, Nigeria. But, we got 250. What do we got now? 300?
We got like 330, 340 million, something like that.
And so who's competitive with that? I mean,
I think Europe. Europe might be close. But I think Europe has more. I think Europe has like 400, 500 million, 450.
For all of Europe. For all of Europe.
Yeah, all of Europe. Yeah, like the continent.
Yeah, so that there's complaints about the Euro system, the EU. But let's say in any
and a lot of the real power in Europe is not the parliament. It's the unelected bureaucracy essentially, which is a problem.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, and actually, I just looked it up. Yeah, in the Indian Parliament, they have 788 members for 1.4 billion people. So there, it's I think that would be like a few million per. Well, more than a million per representative.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't claim to know statistics or breaking down
we're at the statistics
per capita or per head or per who knows.
I was just giving you numbers that were 750,000. 750,000 citizens per representative in the House. 770 something. That's 750,000, I think, right?
Yeah, I think there's like congressional district represents a certain amount. Or can.
I agree. And, I know the theory on certain management is the maximum effective tiers of management are maximum 1 to 25. you can't manage a group more than 25 people, you know, with any sanity. Same thing in the schooling system, right? How many kids, how many students can you have in the class and make progress? So the country gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you say, well, the system, it's so enormous, it's going to like wearing pants that are too tight. The seams are going to bust, and you're going to get a lot of corruption and people coming up with shorter solutions because it's too burdensome to go by the book. So maybe that's one of the major problems that's going on. The country's too big, too many people, too much activity, too much GDP, not enough railroads. Okay, so what do you think of that, Alex? You were just looking up. You spend how much time you spend in Greece? You go back and forth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, several months over the past few years in total.
So how's the government there? The only
I
thing
mean,
I've
it's
ever
yeah, the
heard about.
parliamentary system. It's pretty,
Yeah, but
it's
I've heard.
mostly a two-party system, kind of like England. Although again, yeah, the after the big financial crisis, the Socialist Party took over for a time, but then do so great. So now it's back to the true kind of traditional parties, which the center right and center left ones.
Well, let's throw this into Michael. I don't know how much longer we can go on this, but Michael, what's your two questions? What's your reaction to the primaries, and do you think there's too many people to govern in the United States? And it's too hard to have a sensible system. There's too many people. Those are the two questions. But what do you think of the primaries?
Well, they're not over yet.
They're not over. But what do
Some
you
of
think?
well, they're not entirely. Yeah, and some of the races because they still got to count votes in California. Actually, it's not technically determined who the second candidate's going to be. I think, including in LA, I think it's still possible that whatever the left wing Democrat could be the number two, and she'll face Bass.
I don't think that's going to happen in LA.
Probably not, but again, I think statistically it's still possible if like she gets a lot of the write-in votes, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean
They
anything.
haven't called it. I mean, the governor's race is closer.
Anything is possible. I mean, we could also be invaded by aliens before that happens. But the fact is, no, I don't think that's going to happen in LA. I think LA's we pretty well can assess what's going to happen in the primaries. The election itself may be a different story. Problem is, now, what was your second question, Ken?
Well, we were looking at the fact that Mr. Shaw brought it up in 2010, whatever the numbers were. Right now, it's 770,000 people per congressman.
Yeah.
That's how many people are represented by each congressman. And so the question is, in management, you're talking about a manager. You need tiers of management, and you never want to go higher than 25 people underneath one person's control. And actually, in terms of active management, you're really going to go 1 to 5. But here we have a government where representatives got 770, 750,000 people. So maybe it's just too big to have a say in government, and things rip, and like clothes that are too tight. You have flaws and problems because there's just not enough governance.
Well,
that's a question. What do you think?
Well, then you would be expanding the House of Representatives to, I mean, in other words, cut down, and let's say have one representative for every 100,000 people. You'd multiply the House of Representatives by 7 times. It's preferable to have one representative having as they're being a representative for as few people as possible. That way, each person would have more of a voice in that, and certainly you would have less of a chance of outliers, unjust. Well, possibly unjustified influence on it, dark money and things like that. The idea is how, how plausible is it? How how many people can you have in the actual federal government? I'm certainly not one of these people that feels that there should be less government in terms of the government being there to help the people. But there's, again, it's a balancing act. You can't go too extreme in one area, but 750,000 people, yeah, that's like the mayor of a mid-sized city. And those people, the representation any one person, any one individual is getting there is greatly diminished. But I don't see, I mean, when you're asking that question, but what would be what's the alternative to what we have now? Was somebody suggesting that we have more representatives, or somebody suggesting that we have fewer? What are you referring to? Or is this just?
Oh, no, I don't know why maybe I just brought it up because it's in my mind, but that the world is too big. Because we're looking at elections, and when it gets to be big numbers, how are you representing? Who's getting represented? What kind of representation can somebody who gets elected provide? But I was just looking at this is a significant issue, is how many people are there, how many citizens to getting a representation. I just looked up, Israel is only 82,000 people per representative, and England is 73,000, I think.
Right, Canada would be less. And I know what happens. The advantage to a parliamentary system is that if you're in a riding, if you're the MP from a particular riding, in most cases, they have to go out to their riding and start talking to people because, again, it's, they have to start talking to individuals and dealing with those people. They have to have, it'd be like an American representative having to have, ongoing town halls in which they would have to show up. Let's say once a month or something like that, there'd be a town hall and everybody's invited. Well, when you got 700,000 some odd people, everybody's not going to get into that town hall, and you're not going to be able to reach a great, much of a percentage, anything but a minuscule percentage of that people when you go walking around but in the ridings, let's say in Canada, yeah, you can go walking around and at least meet a larger percentage of your district. So I think it's better, in my opinion, to have to have a representative or an MP for a smaller amount of people, but you can't get too much smaller because then it becomes unwieldy. I mean, if you want to have it for like 1,000 people, forget it. You'd have more people in the government, and of course, who's paying them? Then you have to reduce the wages, which was not necessarily a bad idea of all the representatives. I mean, if you reduce their wages, they might actually have to do it because they actually believe in it, there's less of a chance of big money having an influence because you're more directly answerable to your constituents. But otherwise, with 750,000, your constituents are, I mean, you can claim anything also. If you've only got 70,000, first of all, there could be more referendums. And if 70,000, you can't say, well, the vast majority of my constituents say this, because a majority of constituents could actually come out. I mean, they can get enough signatures and get enough people involved that can contradict that. But with 750,000, you can say anything. That's what's going on with the federal government now. I mean, people are saying, well, the American people want this, the American people love me, or something like that. I mean, they're making it up out of thin air, and it's all bullshit. But the idea is that they know that it'd be just too complicated, too much of a massive operation to have absolute proof that contradicts it. So yeah, I think that the fewer people, fewer constituents, or the more representation you have for your constituents, the more say they have in it. But I mean, it's an interesting theoretical question, but I don't see anybody sitting there in the government saying, you know what, especially not in the Republican side, they're certainly not saying, you know, we need more representation here.
Okay, I've got another thing I want to correct on this. I don't know why I didn't bring this up. I omitted a very significant thing about the United States of America. We have tiers of operation. We have the federal government, we have state governments, we have regional governments, we have city governments, and that's just government. We also have corporations with tiers of operation and franchises. We also have industry hierarchies, and we have religious hierarchies, and all of those things influence life. So you can get, a religion's influence society. How are we going to have these holidays?
I thought you were referring to the federal government.
No, I was, but the point is, part of the federal government is that which isn't handled by the federal government goes down to the states, and vice versa similarly down to the cities, and then down to the boroughs. So there's a president of Brooklyn and a president of Queens, and there could be neighborhoods that have authority. In LA, we have neighborhood organizations. So
right.
Therefore, and school boards and school segments, so you can get parents protesting what's happening in the schools, and maybe it goes up to the federal government, but it's basically an organizational structure with a board that's sitting on the board of that school district. And it's easier to affect it because it isn't 72,000 or 720,000. So there's the good thing about this country is multiple systems of governance that exist. You don't have to.
They deal with
just have to affect the federal government determines everything.
But they deal with different things. In other words, if you want to have affect American foreign policy, you're not going to go to your. You can, but you wouldn't go to your local, let's say, city or even state politicos, because they don't have that much say in it. You would go to your federal representatives. People in Congress are. You have people in Congress who are representing their constituents, but they're not necessarily. But they're making decisions on a national or international level, and they may have no knowledge whatsoever about national or international affairs, but they have a say in it. Again, it's we have a very imperfect system of government, and it goes back to Churchill's line. Supposedly Churchill's line, which is probably paraphrase the way I'm going to say it, but which is that democracy is the worst form of government until you compare it to every other form of government.
Right.
So I don't know. But again, nobody's offering any proposed changes to that. So this is all just a hypothetical, brain game, I take it.
Well, let me ask Michael Shaw there. What do you think about that? Do you think that in the person's lifetime or his political interest, in other words, his interests of society as opposed to himself and his family, but his society, his community, and the country he lives in, do you think there's a benefit of having tiered government, federal, state, city, borough?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, nothing's perfect where I live, but I'll tell you one thing. As far as my quality of life goes, and things I decide to do on a day-to-day basis could be considered very dangerous, or maybe are restricted in other parts of the world, maybe. And I'm very happy with what I get. I mean, I'm not happy with the efficiency of the taxes, but I think that when I compare to other states, I actually am more free in my state than, like, say, down in Texas, or California or whatever. Now, there's trade-offs to that too. There's probably way better roads in California. Generally speaking, their maintenance is probably superior to Missouri. In our, how many million people live in Missouri, whatever. But yeah, I would. I admire maybe the level of access maybe that you could get in like a Commonwealth type government, like under the UK EU style. But I prefer my government. I prefer. I wouldn't want their form, because I would not have the same quality of life, and freedom, and I value that greatly.
Do you feel you have an influence on who the local leaders are, as opposed to?
Absolutely, yeah, hmm yeah. The way that I participate, yeah, absolutely. I care. I don't show up for every city meeting or whatever, city management meeting or whatever in my local area, but for a time, I did give intense volunteer hours toward my kiddo's school district. Obviously, I have a vested interest in that, and it was very successful to do that. So, absolutely, you can. Matter of fact, if you are an elected official, you are limited sometimes in what you can do. You're a more official, so you're what you say goes. Obviously at certain points, but if you're a private citizen, you have. I can coordinate with whoever I want. I can conspire and plan and organize for a person to win XYZ school board. It's not very hard to do that, especially depending upon what you live, and whatnot, at least for my area. But yeah, absolutely. Like I've had satisfaction with that. I've had it be successful. But that's my view.
Yeah,
If I don't like something, I better have a reason. I can go down. I can go talk to my code enforcement officer or whatever. Or if I get cited for my thing, I mean, that happens every day. Like I would rather live in a government where I can go, like, it's almost Sesame Street, honestly. It's like friggin', I go down the street and I go talk to the guy who gave me the citing, or talk to him and say, what do you mean by this? Or can you explain this to me? And I can get an answer. I would not want to live in a system where that was not possible. I don't think, or I would be much more likely to have a more cynical view on my, I guess, form of government, I guess.
Alex, when in Greece, what do they have? Do they have tiers of government, or just everybody ignores the federal government and that's it?
No. I mean, it's a relatively centralized state because there's only, I don't know what, 11 million. This is not a huge population. So yeah, it's a parliamentary system. They have, yeah, but yeah, there are the major cities, well, and a lot of the towns have mayors. So it's, there are, there also, yeah, there's a central government, there are ministries, under whoever's the party that's the majority. So yeah.
And Michael, what do you think about? You're going to tell us about Canada. Do they have like local for the different provinces, local governments?
Sure, of
Yeah.
course they do. I mean, if you live in Manitoba, you have the provincial government, you have the Winnipeg's municipal government, then you have the various ridings or areas that have their own government in addition to the ridings for the federal government. I think it's I prefer that system because people have more say. But of course, I don't know if they have as much say, let's say in Britain, which is more densely populated. But no, Canada, it's a good system. I mean, you can get to know your local officials, and they know you, and they know you know where to find them. So it's if they go, off track. So yeah, I think it's of course they have. It's not just the federal. As a matter of fact, Canada probably is less centralized than the United States as far as having a central as far as the federal government goes. Obviously, it's a strong federal government, but they've had to give the specific, individual provinces a little bit more leeway, as they've done with Quebec, and they may have to do with Alberta on the other end. So, yeah, I think, it does have to do with the density of the population as well. But I prefer that system. Also, there's other added extras like the the Prime Minister of Canada is not the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. So there's less politicization of the armed forces, or less ability to politicize the running of the armed forces. The federal government decides whether or not they're going to go to war or something. The Governor General of Canada doesn't make that decision. But as far as who the ultimate commander-in-chief is, it's the Governor General, who is supposed to be, at least, not a political or it's not supposed to be biased in any type of political sense. So, yeah, I prefer that system, but everybody, that's what makes for horse racing. Everybody, likes what they like.
Okay, let's go to Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask, like in the United States, our federal system, like give an example, like if we wanted to put a nuclear power plant in, not gonna happen. You better start planning now, and maybe in decade 2, you might get an indication of, like, maybe. I'm joking, of course, but like in Canada's form of government, I have a friend in Canada. He was talking about this a little bit, and I was curious. Like if a provincial, in theory on paper, if a provincial government wanted to, whatever, put a nuclear power plant in, if they wanted to do that, sorry, kitty, then they could just do it. Or what I guess, what does that look like in Canada? Like, that was my question.
What does it look like in Canada?
Yeah. Like, say, like provincial power or federal power, or like if you wanted to put a nuclear power plant in, it doesn't have the same regulatory, kind of things like the United States does, which is like made to prevent that from happening. If you know what I mean, if I'm communicating properly, anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you could. In other words, there are federal regulations that have to be answered. You could be a province, but you're still part of the country. Particularly with something like a nuclear power plant, which could possibly impact, depending upon where it is, other provinces. But for instance, they're just now dealing with trade regulations between provinces. So, but if somebody wanted to put in a nuclear power plant, it's probably easier to do it. Well, something, I don't know if it's easier to do it, because a state in the United States can put in say we want to put in a nuclear power plant, as long as it meets federal regulations. I'm under the impression, unless things have changed, that, they can do that. Actually, it would be a company that wanted to build a nuclear power plant, and then they would have to answer to the state and to the federal government and to the local municipality. And it pretty well much works the same way. It's the United States is a republic. Canada and the members of the Commonwealth are constitutional monarchies, but they pretty much add up to the same thing. So, in other words, if you were living if you lived in the United States and then you went to live in Canada, you wouldn't be, open to a lot of culture shock, especially since in other words, the language. I mean, you have to try to learn French if you were in Canada. I mean, it would be, put it this way, in your interest. But basically, if you're living in Alberta, you don't really have to learn French, and the accent's pretty much the same. You don't really. There's not a lot of difference, not a lot of major differences in how people live on a day-to-day basis. I don't know if that answers your question, because I'm not quite sure.
No, just was curious. Just curious.
I mean, I can tell one anecdote, which is that one of the first times when I was a little kid that I went up to Canada, I didn't even know I was in a different country until I saw we passed a flagpole. So I was in there for several hours before realizing I had crossed from New York into Ontario. So anyway, but what was the? And by the way, how many people named Michael do we have here?
Well, we would have had 3.
So I think you got to delineate who you're asking the question to, Ken.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Okay.
You can
I
call
was
me
just
Mike.
checking. There is one. I think there is a major difference between Canada and the U.S. Is
Oh,
the
yeah.
demography. I was just
Well, no,
looking
there are differences, major differences, but I'm talking about on a day-to-day basis. When just regular people going about their lives. It's not that much different. Yeah, there's different government. You vote differently. You have ridings. You have a federal government. The prime minister is selected differently. Although now a lot of parliamentary systems have direct votes for the prime minister. There are differences, but they're not differences that are going to upset your lifestyle. It's not the same thing as moving to a system, to a country that has a completely different system of government. It's a non-democratic.
Yeah, right. I was just thinking that well, I think there's a slight. The U.S. population is about 60% non-Hispanic white. In Canada, it's 67%. So that's actually not that much different. And everybody else is not white, Then it's mostly big proportions of Asians in Canada, more
Yeah,
so than the U.S.
especially after 1997, with Hong Kong.
What happened in '97?
Well, in '97, actually, it was effective in 1999. But when the British government
Yeah.
gave Hong Kong back to China, or gave it to China, the People's Republic, a lot of people from Hong Kong, just they had the ability to go to Britain or a Commonwealth country, and of course the closest Commonwealth countries were Canada and Australia. But Vancouver, the population that would call themselves, the percentage of the population that would call themselves Asian, dramatically increased in a relatively few years.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It works. And there, of course, here we have we call it the melting pot. There they call it the cultural mosaic. I think Canada works better as far as, in other words, by saying, yeah, you don't have to become, purely Canadian. You can still hold on to your identity, but because of that, they become very Canadian. So, in my experience, I haven't done a thesis on this.
Well, do they go through a ritual for citizenship?
Yeah, sure. Well, you have to get residency, and then when you get residency, you apply for citizenship. And I've been at citizenship ceremonies where people were being sworn in, and it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, I know one of the people who does a lot of the swearing
Right.
in.
You have to
And
drink a whole liter of maple syrup. I'm kidding.
it's yeah, you don't. Yeah, well, one thing though, the Canadian that when you have a citizenship ceremony, one thing I noticed, the ones I went to, because a friend of mine was running it. Um, one was they had like a cake for, and everybody got a piece of cake afterwards. I thought that was kind of,
That is
nice. But you have to take you have to take a test, and you have to learn everything about the country,
Oh,
how it operates, and just like you have to do here. And it's kind of the same thing that people who take the citizenship test often know more about how the country works than people who were born there.
right.
That's the same thing in the United States. Um, I mean, I'll never forget somebody told me I was helping somebody with their citizenship test, and there was a question that said, "What do the colors of the American flag stand for?" And I'm going, I don't know that. I learned it, but by seeing that question. But I didn't know anybody who knew what does anybody here know what the colors of the American flag stand for?
Red,
I would be
white, and
guessing.
blue, is it?
Honest. I mean, I know what the colors are, what their symbolism is. I mean, I would take a guess that red means the blood, and then I would pontificate or I would filibuster. But
Well,
I would be
actually,
guessing.
I don't remember all of it, but red meant courage, like you said, blood, and blue meant loyalty, I believe, and white meant no, it doesn't mean anything racial. It meant, I don't know, probably purity or something. I don't even remember.
Could be in a sense. Yeah. Well, that would be my guess too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I have to look it up for sure. And I'm a citizen, natural born. So, to your point,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I mean, these questions, I mean, there are people who were born in Canada, let's say, who were like born in Canada and 20 years old, that don't know that the maple leaf is a relatively recent flag. That was not the official flag of Canada for the greater part of the 20th century. And the national anthem, "Oh Canada," wasn't the national anthem for a large part of the 20th century. So, but again, if you're born there after that fact, you may not know it unless you study history, obviously. But I mean, how many people know when the Star Spangled Banner was adopted by the United States as a national anthem?
Francis Scott Key. I don't know the year, but I remember it was
Well, after
during
Kate Smith
battle.
sang the song, I don't know.
No, it was in the night. I think it was 1937 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was in the 20th century. I mean, in the 1800s, that wasn't our national anthem. So, and again, it's but these are questions that people who were born in a particular country don't wouldn't know, and that's maybe a reason they should teach civics more, which they used to teach in both the United States and Canada. I think they still do in Canada, and I don't know if they do in Britain or whatever. But I'll tell you one other thing. I mean, when I was in France, I noticed that, I mean, on a day-to-day level, there's a language barrier. You have to speak French, obviously, if you're going to live there. But, again, on a day-to-day, you're going to a restaurant, you're driving your car. If a cop stops you, if you drop something on the street, you pick it up. I mean, on a day-to-day level, most democratic countries operate the same way. I don't know. It seems to me, from my experience, I'm not making a statement of absolute fact here, but that's my experience, you know.
Okay. All right. So this is kind of like, dim it down. I
I mean,
just wanted to ask, Michael, if you don't mind, I just throw a non sequitur question. Do you think veterans make better U.S. citizens than draft dodgers like me? I was a draft dodger.
you know something. It depends upon what you're a veteran of, um, and and how, in other words, how you adjusted back into the society, into the country. Um, I would say veterans of the Second World War made better citizens than draft dodgers of the Second World War. But a lot of it had to do with what they were fighting for, and what the stakes were, and how many people, you know, how large a percentage of the people were involved. That depends on the person. You know, whenever you say who makes better citizens according to that, I mean, you could say, do, you know, businessmen make better citizens than you know, assembly line workers?
Basketball players,
Yeah, I mean, you
movie
know,
stars. Yeah,
it
okay.
depends. It
But
depends on the person.
I wanted to ask Mr. Shaw because he's a veteran. I mean, Michael, you were never in the military, were you?
No, no, I have a close
Neither
association
was
with
I.
the Canadian military, but I was never in it, and I would never presume or
Well,
say
but
that I was on that level. I do think their veterans are entitled to a greater degree of respect and more advantages than non-veterans. But that's
okay. I know that, let's say, people join the military with personnel, ideological ideas for World War II, maybe the Korean War, and the Iraq War. But I think Vietnam kind of snuck up on people. People weren't there like, oh, let's free Vietnam. But for Iraq, people, you know, after 9/11, yeah, I'm going to go to war.
well.
World War II and maybe the Korean War was highly motivated, but the others, I don't think so. But I wanted to ask Mr. Shaw, what do you think? Do you think veterans are more better citizens as responsible for the society?
I don't know that they're better, but I think that they all that means is that they valued it and maybe, you know, served when they didn't have to. I don't know if it makes you better, but I know that I would rather have a system where there was a good mix of people um, from all walks of life in general. Like I would rather, like for example, uh, I have more confidence in my National Guard brothers and sisters in uniform than I would say if in a general army active duty outfit. But that's because I know the people, and I know what we're capable of and what we're not capable of, and it's pretty easy when you know the person. It's a lot easier to want to defend them, want to go out of your way to, you know,
Well, there's got to
protect
be
them. You don't want to leave them hanging or whatever.
I mean, recruits in the army or people who join the army, sometimes that's the only place they could go. They're not making it outside, or they want to get out of the city they're in.
Yeah,
Whereas
I agree with
the
Michael. Like,
National Guard is different.
yeah. Well, a citizen soldier. I mean, it's essentially the epitome of what that crossroad or whatever. But I agree with Michael. Like, I don't think that you should get any special. You know, should my say be more than yours? No, but like things that are intangible. You know, like generally speaking, I think that it is true that veterans are given a little bit more deference, a certain level of respect. I know that that's true for like whenever foreign policy comes up. I know, I know somebody who served will be, in the room will be their opinion will be asked if they served overseas, in combat or something like that.
So, how do you feel about when people say "Thank you for your service," but they never say that to a teacher? Who might
I don't. You don't have to thank me for my service. Like to be honest with you, it's kind of gone the other way. Like where it's a little bit more. I wouldn't say it's ever frowned upon, but like it's kind of like you don't have to thank me. We've had. I think American citizens were very good about that during the global war on terror. Like after 9/11, I think that I think that we all appreciate it to people who serve, and in turn, I think it also helped. I think it's more likely. I don't think it's as common as people being thanked for the military, but cops or firefighters, I've seen people go up and thank, unprompted. I know I'll thank a teacher or whatever if I can, but yeah, generally speaking, you don't hear that. You probably should hear that more. Thanking people more than just the military or service, because it's boring and it's more
I
thankless.
I use that. I say thank you for your service or thank you for what you do. To the lady who finally got me an appointment to see the doctor within 2 months instead of 2 years.
Well, yeah, common courtesy. Yeah.
Somebody who can get you through bureaucracy is all.
Yeah, but if your question is like, should we have some kind of Heinlein type Starship Troopers type
no. Is
system?
that
No, no, thank you.
no? Does the fact that a person could put himself in that position mean he got more prone to be responsible and
I think that ultimate responsibility is true for a certain period of time, but like with anything, it's not forever. Like your time of active service means that you're giving up. I'm giving up my freedom of speech. I'm giving up a lot of things in exchange. You get, like there is that thing, but it's only for a limited time. Sorry.
Okay. Well,
I'm just gonna chime in here with one thing, though.
go for it.
I've noticed because, yeah, I mean, by profession, I'm an actor and writer, and I've noticed that I would trust somebody who is in the military. In other words, who is presently in the military. I said they tend to be in a lot of ways more trustworthy. In other words, if somebody I know, like I know a lot of the guys I know in the Canadian Forces, if they say they're going to do something, far more often than not, they'll do it, or they'll make every effort to do it. Whereas let's say I talked to a bunch of actors, none of whom served in the military, and they say they're going to do something, it's about a 50-50 shot at best. So there are areas, and of course, it goes down to common sense. Obviously, if you're in the military, you have that kind of discipline, and you have that kind of, you've been trained for that in a lot of ways. So yeah, there are differences, but like Michael was saying is, does that mean they should have a greater say? Everybody's got their own experiences. I mean, if you're talking about the military, yeah, I would value a veteran's opinion more than I would, let's say, somebody who doesn't know anything about, who hardly knows anything about the military. But if you're a teacher, you're going to value somebody who has teaching experience. You're going to value their opinion more. The old saying where, everybody's equal. It's more like everybody's equivalent. Some people are better at other things. Other people are better at things that the other people aren't, or something like that. But it evens out, and therefore everybody should have a say. But yeah, I mean, but basically what we're talking about, Ken, is pretty much common sense. That seems to me.
Okay, great. All right, it looks like Mr. Shaw had to go.
Oh,
because
too bad.
He doesn't even have a comeback thing. And I think we're done talking. Is that
Well,
okay with you?
Yeah.
You don't have anything you want to bring up, right? Okay, and
Well,
we'll see you
there's
tomorrow
plenty
night.
of things I would bring up, but it's not something we could discuss in a few minutes.
What is that?
Well, there's just a lot of crazy shit going on. I mean, the world is going crazy. So there's a lot of stuff out, going on, but not something we're going to be able to, that you want to bring up as a topic now. And I mean, there's just some crazy stuff going on out there. I mean, it's there's just too much going on, too much crazy stuff out there to fit it in this show. So maybe you were better off talking about the things that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Because at the very least, it's a sane discussion.
Well, let's look at the everybody. I mean, a lot of people favor the thing that's part of the Alcoholics Anonymous thing. May the Lord give me wisdom to try to change the things that should be changed, but not bother with the things I can't change. Something like that. I'm really
And
Well,
wisdom to know the difference. Yeah.
You have to end the show and say that. Sorry, I had to answer the door. Apologize, but
That's okay.
I had you to solve world peace. The answer is drugs, and then pick the plan. That's it. I'm
Heavy
kidding. I'm
duty.
kidding. Yeah, right. Just drugs, and then just walk away. What?
You mean you take them or you give them?
Well, you
World
just
peace.
yeah. If you want peace, if you put everybody to sleep, not I mean, if nobody's really, everybody's like lying asleep, you're not going to have a lot of wars. It's kind of hard to.
Well, that was pretty much. I joke, but that was like what Frank Zappa would always say would be to ask questions. Essentially, is what he said. Ask questions. What you're looking at, what you're being pushed, what you're being viewed. Just ask questions about it. That's it.
Yeah.
Like good old Timothy Leary, right?
Maybe.
Turn on, tune in, drop out, right? That was very effective.
I think the best thing is if everybody could just like be balanced and having a sense of balance and a sense of reasonableness would help. Being it's but we live in the world we live in, and that's
Okay, so let's just let's cool it for now tonight. That's it. It's already 11:15 or something to 12. What is it?
Yeah, but I have to say that to Michael, I said, please come back because I think you're, in the short time I've gotten to hear you, you're quite a good addition to this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you.
Oh, absolutely. You're solid like a rock.
I like to hear from other two. Yeah, I got to talk to the guy from Veterans for Peace earlier tonight, and other Alex. I've talked to him before. He's interesting to listen to as well, and you've been as well, Michael. Likewise.
Oh, yeah. So there's an incentive to come back. We may not be as interesting as time goes on. We may get more bored, but that's all right.
Well, that just means you're getting to know each other. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. The more you get to know somebody, the less interesting they are. Right. But anyway,
everybody. How would you say, Michael Jankowicz, how would you say good evening and keep your curiosity up and keep going in Canadian? What would Canadians say goodbye? How did they say goodbye?
Bye.
Just like that.
How does Canadians say goodbye? Yeah, no. All right. They probably say, see you later, Abe.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But it's got to.
Good night, everybody. Good night, you guys.
And Ken, I hope to see you tomorrow. Okay.
Will do. Bye-bye.
Good show, Ken. Thank you.
Yep. I don't know. I'm looking for the kill switch here.